we get
So,
one of those?
I'm the store manager there. All right, so I've got a couple stoves here for you. This is a small ultralight backpacking stove. It's called a canister stove. And we sell one called MSR. It's made by MSR. It's called a Pocket Rocket. You guys are probably familiar. This is an ISOPRO style fuel canister. Works really well for convenience. You just screw it on there, light it, and you can control the flame. Real good for summertime backpacking, things like that. If it's real cold or at high elevation, it doesn't pressurize very well, so it's typically not recommended for that. It's really good for just boiling water. A lot of times I just use a teak coffee cup. You don't want to do a double wall cup if you're going to do it, though. Make sure it's a single wall. But they'll boil water real easy. I basically filled this cup up to here, pre-measured, you know what I mean, and boiled it, threw it in here, closed the Ziploc, shook it up real well, put it in my cooler, and waited a few minutes to rehydrate, and that's as much as it is. When you're on a backpacking trip, you could eat you would eat out of the bag or share this. This is supposed to be for 2 people, and but then you don't need a whole lot of dirty pots, and you're not dirtying up a dish and all that stuff. You're eating right out of the bag. So this style stove, which is boiling water for my coffee, is a different kind of stove. It's a white fuel or a white gas liquid fuel style. And what it does is you have a liquid fuel in here called white gas. You pressurize it. There's a pump here that you're going to just keep pumping. And initially, there's a coil that goes around here, and stay away from it because it does have a flame there. The coil has to be heated up so that it turns from the liquid to a gas. And on the bottom there's a little cup. So to initially light it, you pressurize it, turn the fuel on to where the bottom gets a little bit of liquid on it. Then you light the bottom disc, and you get this big ball of flame that comes up. And it heats up the entire stove. And once that stove is heated and that is gone, then you can turn the fuel back on, and it converts, because it's all warm, converts everything from a liquid to a gas, and then you have that blue flame. And as you can tell, it's burning pretty hot. Typically, on both of these style stoves, you can get a water to boil between 3.5, tops 4 minutes. This one can boil water in about 3 minutes. So whenever they give you a fuel canister, you can figure out kind of how many times, but if you can boil water in 3 minutes, and after you figured out on your stove, you might be able to get 10 meals out of one of these canisters or so. So if you're on a week-long trip and you're only boiling water just for dinner, then you might be able to last a whole week on one canister. But if you're going to boil water for morning and night, then you're going to probably need 2 canisters. So that's why on all these stoves, it'll tell you kind of how long it'll last, what's your boil time. So this is a third kind of stove here, and it kind of gets even bigger. But this one has a stove and the pot is all built into one. So you would boil this. So here's your pot. This is your stove part. It's pretty advanced. The nice thing about this style is your stove fits when you're ready to pack it. It fits on the inside. In fact, well, if I can get that chain off there. Usually that'll go in there, and if you have a fuel cell, it'll go in there with the lid. So it seems kind of bulky. I think I actually need to flip it. But when you're packing, think about that's your fuel, your stove, and your pot all in one unit. So the nice thing about it, because it is the way that it's designed, when that stove is attached directly to the unit, the flame is very close to it, which is nice. But what it did is it has all these condensers on the bottom of it, and it centralizes all the flame to the bottom of the stove, so it boils water even faster. On this style stove, on this style stove, when that flame hits the bottom of the pot, where do all the flames go? It shoots straight out. So it hits and then it goes straight out. This one, because of the condensers on the inside, it redirects them back into the pot. So it's a much more efficient. You'll burn less fuel to boil water with this than you would with any of these other styles. Pretty cool. It is bulky, but if you're, especially for the Scouts where you're boiling a lot of water at a time, or because there's typically not by yourself. So if I'm by myself, I'm going to take something like this. If it's maybe 2 people, something like this or like this. The time that you would want to use a liquid fuel stove would be in a very, very, very cold situations or very, very high altitude. So most of your mountaineering people are using something like this. They're not using this IsoPro style fuel. So these guys I think are what, $59? The little tiny pocket rocket's $44.99. So the price and the stoves aren't really that far apart. It's really about buying what you think, the space that you want to give it, and how many people you're planning on cooking. If I was with the Scouts, each of you wouldn't buy one of these. One of these would be like for 4 of you. And then what you would do, what the other Scouts would do is either carry something like this. This is another type of pot that you could use instead of one of these. And your handles just kind of flip out. Like that. You guys have probably seen units like that. That one, again, I would only eat out of that one. This is more your cook style pot. Alright. But I thought this was a cool one for you guys. The silicone comes out of it, and so you can cook with this guy and then eat out of this guy. And this is silicone. It'll handle 400 degrees. So once you cook it, like I said, if you didn't want to eat out of a bag, you could eat out of the bowl. This guy's only $12.99. That's pretty inexpensive. And if you want to feel it, it doesn't weigh anything.
Got any extras?
All kinds at my store.
I got money right now. I like nothing.
How much does this one weigh?
Literally
Fuel
what
and
the?
the stove.
The
combined.
stove, you know what, I don't remember the total
Caleb.
weight. Where's the English?
It says, you know how much this costs?
On the bottom.
$13. Can I pass it to Daddy?
It's the one that no one pays attention.
Yeah, it just says lightweight. I don't actually see a weight on here.
Lightweight.
Net weight 32 pounds.
Lightweight, 1,000
Yeah,
pounds.
I don't see a total weight on here. It does hold 1 1/3 liters,
Electricity.
1.3 liters,
Why it has like no water.
which is a lot of water.
You can't do yourself.
So, but if you're wanting to use so if you're not taking a water filter and you need to boil water for yourselves at night, that's going to go much quicker in order to have drinking water as backup. So, anybody have any questions?
No? That's pretty neat.
Pretty neat items. They have there's another kind of stove out there called an alcohol stove. You all heard of alcohol stoves? No? So an alcohol stove, typically people will make an alcohol stove. They're usually out of either tuna cans or aluminum cans, and they take the top and the bottom and they cut them off, and then they use JB Weld to attach them, and they drill holes in it, and then they put heat, which is like a fuel injector, and they pour that into it, and then you make little posts, but basically you're gonna cook right off of that. Or the other style, which I've seen some of the Scouts make, are called hobo stoves. You guys heard of hobo stoves?
Yep.
Like the penny stoves?
Like they're made out of like coffee cans.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And I mean, they just don't cost anything. And then you put wood in it, essentially. I've made out of coffee cans, and you burn sticks out of that, which is a pretty neat idea too. They can be a little bulky, especially if they're the size of a coffee can. But if you're putting other stuff in it and then build it and take it apart each night, it'd be a pretty efficient way to go. So, any other questions? No?
How many of you guys have never been to the Field and Stream right there off 75? Everybody go? Good place. You gotta go and stop in there.
Yeah, I've been many of them.
Oh, I do have
Yeah.
coupons for you guys.
Ooh!
What's your first name?
Shannon.
Shannon? You know Shannon?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm her
oh yeah. How are you? She said she was going to tell you to come find me. So I have coupons. If you all want coupons, I know you guys got a lot going on, so I don't know if you
We'll pass them around.
Definitely.
pass them around.